Okay, so this is the demo for the painting assignment, and I decided to have a little bit of fun with my younger brother since he was, always such a pest when we were growing up. Just kidding, brother. Anyway, just looking at things that I thought might be fun to do as paintings. I just thought this would be kind of fun to play with. So anyway, just in case you're wondering what I did here, I did uh, use some Photoshop filters, the liquify filters and stuff to kind of push out his cheeks and distort his smile and nose and eyes and everything. And then this is actually half of his face duplicated and flipped so that it's completely um, mirrored basically. So it's his face and features and everything are completely symmetrical. His face is not actually like that. So to get started, the first thing that we want to do, of course, I mentioned getting rid of any kinds of things that you see as annoying, that are distractions that you don't want to be part of the painting. Kind of already have done that with this, so we're just going to move on to the next part. We want to have 3 layers. So here's my first layer with the picture on it, and I'm going to come down to the bottom of the layer palette, create a new layer, and then we're going to fill this layer with white. And since white is my background color, it's going to be Command Delete. So Command Delete fills that with white. Then I'm going to come down and do one more layer, and this is going to be my paint layer. Now, if you want to label these, you can. You can double click on these right here and you know label it however you want. But with just 3 layers, it's not like it's going to get confusing, hopefully. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and turn off the white layer because, as you recall, when I was going through this quickly in class, the white layer is something that I only turn on every now and then so I can see the progress of my actual paint layer. But for most of the process, I leave that layer off. Okay, so let's come over to the tool palette and go to the brush tool. I'm going to click and hold on that and go down to the mixer brush tool. The mixer brush tool is the one that we want to use for painting. Okay, so going across the top here, I'm going to choose my brush. So I'll click on here, go down to the brush that I usually like to use, which is that one. You can also do that from the brush palette over here, and you can see, at least from this, the one that I have selected has an example, a sample like this. There's some shape dynamics turned on and everything else. If you want to go through those and kind of toy around with those, feel free to. This one here is just some brush presets that you can go through, so nothing really exciting. In here, you have load brush and clean brush. I'm going to go ahead and clean the brush. And there we go. Sometimes I forget what I like to have set there. And in here, I'm going to come down to very wet, heavy mix. That's what I like to use when I'm painting in here. And we also need to check this box that says sample all layers. Since we're painting on this layer, but we're picking up colors for our paint from this layer, you need to have sample all layers turned on. All right, so just to start off so you can see what's actually happening, I'm going to zoom in. And I'm just going to zoom in on this, on his eye right here, and start doing a little painting. Because my brush is going to be sensitive, with the tablet, I don't necessarily have to set my brush size to what I think it should be. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to go around and paint in his eye here. Painting faces, by the way, can be kind of tricky. And I would start off with kind of erring towards small, gentle brushing to try to keep as much realism as possible as I paint the face. And then as I go, um, I may change my mind. Okay, so I'm not quite sure if you can tell what's going on. The change that's taking place is pretty subtle, but it, especially as I paint in the white. But you can see obviously as I paint, the little blood vessels and stuff are going away, the veins or whatever, and it's the paintbrush is picking up the colors from the picture and then kind of smearing them in a way, or as we're doing brush strokes. Okay, so kind of as I'm going along here, I'm just deciding, where do I want detail, where don't I want detail. I'm gonna want these lashes, to look fairly realistic as little painted lines, and that's gonna end up, I can tell already that this is gonna be kind of a tricky spot in here, just how I might want to do this. And I'm thinking that what might work best is to go ahead and paint this line, for the eyelash, and not worry about these individual eyelashes. And then probably what I'll do is I'll come in later with my brush and with actually just a regular brush and black and paint in the eyelashes by hand, as opposed to trying to have my brush do it. So right now, as you can see, his eyelashes are disappearing. And it makes more sense as I'm painting this to paint, these skin tones and paint in these lines for his eyelid, and then come back in later, as I said, and paint in those individual eyelashes by hand. Okay, so in the time being, he's gonna not have any eyelashes. It's a little embarrassing, I suppose. Hopefully my brother won't mind that I'm doing this. I know him well enough that he'll actually get a kick out of it. Okay, now most of this, as I go along, it's probably not going to be worth me spending too much time doing the demo on video, because it's going to be pretty boring. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm pretty much going to stop here, because I think you get the idea. And it's really something that you kind of have to just feel your way through. Now, of course, I've already spent the time experimenting with some different brushes, and as I mentioned, I've already kind of found the brush that I like. In some areas, like when I get over into this area, which is pretty much just a flat color, I'll make my brush much larger and do much bigger, bolder strokes. But in here where I'm wanting to retain more detail, I'm doing smaller, more careful strokes, especially as I'm wanting to get the feeling of these brush strokes. I'm going to do just a little bit more here so that I can turn on that white layer, and we can kind of see what's going on. One of the things that you'll notice is as you paint, especially on someone's face like this, you might find, that the face is going to have these kind of natural flaws. Everybody's faces has flaws and everything. And as you paint, you're going to be smoothing those out. And the actual, painted end result is going to have less flaws. It's going to look smoother in a way. I move my brush back and forth, not always going in just one direction, although a lot of times I'll just be going in one direction to try to get those paint strokes just right, but sometimes I'll move back in the opposite direction as I'm kind of watching how the flow of those strokes go, and I'm thinking, oh, I want this, I want that to kind of flow this way. I want that to flow kind of up in there like that. Okay, so just kind of working my way through it. Okay, let's turn on that white there so we can see. Now, this may be surprising to you. It's often surprising to me when I look at it how much I haven't actually painted. Because when we, get rid of that, we're looking at the paint strokes on top of the picture. So the picture's kind of filling in spaces where I haven't painted. And so that's kind of, it's important to turn that on and off and notice those things. Okay? So when I see, oh, okay, I need to get more paint strokes in there, so I'm going to fill in some of those paint strokes. And I know I mentioned it, at least in one of the classes, that as the paint strokes are getting filled in, I will get to a point where I don't really need the photograph anymore. Instead, I will, in fact, we'll do this in just a second. I'm going to turn off the sample all layers here. In fact, I'm going to do that right now. So turning on the white, I'm going to uncheck sample all layers, and it's important to do that anytime that you're actually doing some painting with the white layer on, because you don't want to be picking up the white and paint. Okay, so I'm going to, as I'm painting now, I'm just taking, I'm actually taking colors only from the painted layer. Okay, so I'm just going through and kind of thinking, as I'm going, what should that look like? What am I painting right now? And so I'm really just kind of pushing around the paint that's already existing on my paint layer. Okay, when I feel like I have that pretty well under control, it looks like I'm kind of flattening the eye out a little bit. So what I'm doing right now is trying to bring up some of that paint to get the roundness of the iris back. Okay, so I'm going to turn that off, turn sample all layers back on, and just continue painting. And probably what I'll do is I will stop the video now, and I'll keep painting, and I'll continue the video when the painting is getting close to the end, so that you can see the finished product.